Welcome, everybody. I am here with Casey McFarland. Hello, Casey.
Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Casey has a master's degree in clinical mental health counseling and also a certificate in spiritual, ethical, and religious counseling. Definitely get into that a bit, which, of course, is used, as we were just talking before we started, probably in ways that were not intended, in order to help with people deconstructing from religious structures that have contributed to their harm. So Casey, again, welcome. um, that's a bare minimum kind of background. What's your background in mental health? How long you been at this?
Professionally speaking, I've been at it for 2 years now. I've been graduated from my master's program, but mental health wise, I've had my own experiences with it in life. I don't think anyone actually gets out without any struggle with it. But I actually didn't go to school originally for mental health, so I'm kind of a late bloomer in this field. Originally went for marketing, and that's what I did. So kind of a big turnaround. But in 2021, I graduated with my undergrad in sociology, and I actually it had a niche specialty in social deviance, so that's kind of fun. And then went into my master's, like you said, graduated in 2023, and I also have that certificate that I use for much different purposes than I'm sure what all my other classmates were going for, but that's okay. I get to be like the undercover spy.
Nice. So
Yeah.
you specialized in social deviancy
Yeah.
and then moved into helping people explore their deviancy.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
and kind of affirming and validating that
Right.
deviancy. I think a lot of people went into that specific piece of sociology who were going into like criminal justice majors, something like that. But I found it extremely intriguing what we pathologize in people and what we see as deviance. And it's like, okay, all of this is socially constructed. So, I just thought it was a fun little piece to my experience in the field as a professional, I guess. And then after I graduated, I went straight into private practice and I get to help people deconstruct and be deviant.
Love it. Okay. Social construction. We're gonna come back to that.
Okay.
It's gonna be fun. That's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
So with that background, and being kind of the marketing, which is all about people in
hmm
relationships, how then would you describe your style of therapy, including briefly, at least for right now, you know, what maybe psychotherapeutic theories
Sure.
particularly resonate? Yeah.
Yeah. So I am someone who's a very collaborative therapist when it comes to care. So I guess all of us kind of pick like three theories or modalities to align with. I go
Hmm.
with person centered, which plain and simple is you know yourself better than I ever will. So I'm going to trust you in your experience. And I think that should be like without effort, but that is a whole theory. That's a whole modality. So I align with that. I also enjoy having an existential approach. And I think that goes hand in hand with deconstructing beliefs. So we want to ask those big picture questions. What does life mean for you? What's your purpose here? All that fun stuff. But then also relational, because as you said, marketing, and now I'm a therapist, I'm in mental health. It's everything we do is about having a relationship with someone. It can be a positive one or a negative one, but regardless, it's a relationship. So I like to have that approach in how do you connect with said person? How do you connect with said experience? How are we going to move forward with it?
Okay. All right. So person centered, existential, asking the big questions,
hmm
and then of course relational.
Yeah,
With the relationship, where I'm always curious because of course mental health is everybody's it's about the relationship. Of course, now I'm channeling the religious belief.
sure.
It's not a dogma; it's a relationship.
Uh-huh.
So what what do you think is the difference in the kind of therapeutic relationship as opposed to just, you know, friendships and other things?
I love you asking that question because I will I've had so many people, and not directly to me, but just in general, like, "Well, I have friends. I don't need a therapist." And truthfully, I say your therapist is not your friend, and your friend is not your therapist.
Hmm.
And that's what it's meant to be. So when it comes to therapy, we are supposed to be this outside looking in look to your life, right? We are not meant to know your family. We're not meant to know your friends or your coworkers. We are meeting you as a stranger. And there is value to that because we don't have emotional ties or past understanding of you or what you've been through or what your goals are. So we're hearing your stories. We're not saying, "Oh, but that's your mom." Your friend says that.
Uh-huh.
We're saying, "What the fuck? That's your mom."
Right.
Why? 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 Just I can go much further, but why?
But why?
Yeah.
Yes. And hence the existential. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. Yeah. Oh, we're going to come back to some of these things. All right. Awesome. Um, this interview started off with kind of connecting through the Secular Therapy Project, which is a project out of recovering from religion. What initially drew you to the STP?
So, when I first found it, I wasn't particularly looking for the Secular Therapy Project. I was looking for different directories that I could list myself on as a professional, connect with clients, that kind of thing. And when I found this, it really sparked a personal reaction for me because I thought, damn, I wish I would have known about this when I was going through deconstructing. I was brought up as a Roman Catholic. So
Mm,
I had a big jump to make. And if I knew that there were therapists out there who could have a secular approach and they're not going to be imposing their own beliefs on me, what what could have changed in my
mhm.
experience? What growth could I have had in maybe a much quicker way? So when I saw it, it was something that really drew me in because it challenges what mental health is in the traditional sense. It's not what it's supposed to be. It is challenging those social constructs. It is challenging these massively believed dogmas or relationships. And what it kind of does is it helps people to reclaim themselves. It helps people reconnect with themselves and find their own truth on their own terms. And it was a no brainer.
Nice. Okay. Well, we're all right. I'm going to come back to the social dogma things. That's going to be fun. So, and maybe this touches on that, and that is what. So, when it comes to a person's, individual mental health, and when you're working with them, how do you find that religion, very broadly understood, plays a role, in that?
Yeah, so I think that's an interesting question because a lot of times when I say that I specialize in spiritual or religious trauma and I say I help people deconstruct, the automatic assumption is I hate religion and I hate every piece of it and it should have no place in the world and oh my God, it's our biggest enemy. That's not at all what it is. If it is a value to you and you find peace and comfort in it, great. Religion can be a good tool. But I'm talking more specifically about the people that don't find comfort in it. People who it has brought on shame for them, it has suppressed their identities, it has made them feel excluded from society because it is such a heavy influence in the world we walk in and live in and exist in. So I don't want to come in with this approach of like pathologizing a belief, right? I'm not here to damn it. But for the people who don't want to align with it, I do want to focus on their lived experience and what their true life goals are and follow them through that goal and not attempt to realign them with an ideology that other people think is the best option.
Right. So, if I'm hearing right, then this goes back to that person-centered,
Yeah,
orientation. It's like they're their own um, individualized expert. You're
absolutely.
not there to give them directives. They've probably had plenty of that. Instead,
Yep.
it's more of like perhaps a reflective space to be able to go, okay,
Yeah,
not no judgment, no corrections necessarily, just a place of going, you can say anything you want, and we're just hashing out ideas and how this is going to work for
truly, just a place of like validation.
you.
You
Hmm.
are allowed to not believe this. You are allowed to not align with it. And just because there are people, and there will continue to be people, who react in a negative way to that um, alignment in yourself, doesn't mean it's wrong. There's nothing wrong with this. And that's where I'm able to come in and remind you of that and kind of be like your cheerleader and help you along the way until you start believing that yourself.
Right, right. Love it. Okay, just minus the pom poms.
I can throw them in if we
I
really
mean,
need it.
yeah, I got rid of my set. Yeah, it doesn't quite work there. But I love, yes, the cheerleader. Coming up with your slogans. We're all
Yeah, I'm
doing.
gonna have to like set some up, do some moves.
We're gonna, yeah, that'd be great. And so that really does go into like what is, what you look like for your role in their individual development, particularly those who are coming to you from, that a non-religious or a formerly
Sure.
religious background.
Yeah. So I think in truth, my biggest role in therapy and working with people who especially aren't aligned with religion is being a collaborator with you and being someone who gets to witness your chosen growth. I don't get to determine what growth means for you. Whatever it means for you, I'm here for it. And my my absolute last goal in the way I handle and how I run my therapy practice is I'm not here to diagnose you. I am I might get some heat for this, but I hate the DSM. I
Oh, oh, okay. We're gonna get
yeah,
rolling on that one here in a second.
we're
All
getting out of the ivory tower here,
right.
but
Yeah.
my last goal is to diagnose you. And sometimes, depending on how we're approaching it, if insurance is involved, unfortunately, it's necessary. But that's not what I'm doing here. That's not why I'm here. What I'm here to do is take away the hierarchy of the therapeutic relationship. I'm not coming in here from a top down perspective. We can recognize the schooling I had or whatever it is to put the letters after my name, but at the end of the day, we're both still human. And again, person centered. You're the expert of your life. And sure, I'll be the expert in what you're coming to see me for, but I want to take away that feeling of what I say goes or what I say is law. Just like we deconstruct religion, let's deconstruct therapy. So,
Hmm.
my role is to help you liberate your life, find liberation in the world around us, identify your own values, and let's collaborate on finding a way that you can live by those values. That's what I'm here for.
Nice. I love it. Of course, values here being, what the person's coming up with, and not necessarily, like you say, um, certainly not authoritarian, or in perspective.
Yeah, and it's not even coming from the point of like, oh, you want to step out of Christianity, but you better align with Buddhism. No, I'm not here to find you a belief system. Values are not inherently belief systems
Hmm.
when it comes to, I guess, religious structures. Your values are core to you and nobody else. And it can be the golden rule: treat others like you want to be treated. Great. I don't think that's a bad one. But another value of yours may be I really want to connect with nature. I want to make sure I live in a place that there's greenery, that I can breathe some fresh air. Great, that's a value. It's not connected to a god, it's not connected to rules. That's for you.
Hmm. Nice. I know that, it's, kind of stepping off from, the initial questions and kind of and going into a bit of love how you frame the values there because, for instance, to use your example of greenery and nature, um, in doing a lot of similar work where values exist as their own separate thing, how you put them into practice,
Mm.
what they individually mean to you
Oh, yeah,
can be, obviously a different thing. I mean, shoot, nature might mean something a little different to you. It might be
sure.
somebody else. Maybe somebody doesn't like going hiking.
Yeah,
I don't get it. But if they don't want
I'm
to,
not a
it's
fan.
fine.
I'd rather
There you are.
sit in like a field with a shady tree. That's my nature.
There you
Someone
go.
scaling a mountain?
Uh-huh.
I'll cheer you
Not
on.
you.
Again, I'll give
There
the
you go.
pom-poms, but um yeah, everyone's different.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay. So then, which of course very much goes against the idea that values must, I'm remembering, focus on the family, James Dobson.
Mm.
I know I'm totally dating myself right now,
No,
but
I'm with you.
the 80s, it's just like, the focus on family values. And of course they meant that in a very specific way.
Oh yeah.
And if I'm hearing you right, it's not that all of a sudden somebody's coming to you and saying, it's not that I don't care about family. It's just obviously they're probably going to care about it in different ways than,
Yes.
yeah, the
It,
authoritarian would.
it, yeah. It's when we talk about values, I think something that typically comes to mind for people is like nuclear core values or traditional values. And just because that word is often tied with the other words that I used doesn't mean that's the only thing that's of value. Family can be of value to someone. It doesn't mean I need 2.5 kids and to have a monogamous marriage, right? Values in family can be I'm committed to my relationship. It can mean I want to be a good neighbor in my community. My family is more than just the people in my house. Maybe you love family, you want to be connected to extended family, you have the reunions every year, and that's great because you want to have that connection. Maybe it is just you and your pet. That's a family.
Hmm.
So values are defined by you. Just because they're traditionally or historically framed in a certain way, that's not what values are.
Certainly. Yeah. Well, and so this seems to kind of reconnecting back a little bit to the hierarchical point that you made earlier in connection with the nature of the therapeutic relationship.
Hmm.
And there was a way that you phrased it there around, um, it's not that we're going to ignore, to quote you, my education. It's that and expertise. Like we're not ignoring that. What we're doing is acknowledging, and correct me if but it seemed like there's an issue here of going, um, we're recognizing that our shared humanity is not this singular
Mm,
thing.
yes.
Like we're not relating only as an educational background.
Hmm.
For that matter, the client may very well, and probably does, have an expertise in something that we don't have.
100%. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Always.
Okay.
And I think that that is, I mean, it's core to my work. I think
Hmm.
it's extremely important to recognize that we are humans and we're not going to have this singular connection. Um, I think this ties into a bit of, I said, there's social constructs that a lot of people follow. Um, the therapeutic field has constructs that a lot of people follow. Um, and it is pounded into our heads before we leave our master's program to be this blank slate. We are not a human. We don't have our values. We don't have our opinions. To an extent, of course, we're not going to be bringing in too much. But you're allowed to know that I have two kids. You're allowed to know that I am an atheist. You're allowed to know my I'm a Democrat. But you also know that I have a respect for you as a client, and your beliefs or your alignments can differ from mine. And I'm not going to damn you for them. I'm not going to um, convince you to come to my side of the thing. The room is for you, and that's what we're focusing on. But you are speaking to another human. And I think it's also funny that, again, we're taught to be this blank slate, but then it is celebrated or encouraged sometimes when we see Christian-based counseling.
Hmm.
How's that blank slate? Please tell, because
Uh-huh.
I'm still waiting for an answer.
I think we both are. Yeah. Well, and that's that very much, well, how did they put it? I know in my program, there was something similar to that around like you are you're your personal life, it's that old thing of like work and personal do not overlap at all. And suddenly it's like you you're this automaton,
Hmm.
you're the it's oddly enough very Freudian. There's an assumption there,
Very.
it seems to be.
Yeah.
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 It's like you're this receptacle that they put their ideas
Yes.
into.
And I'm
And
supposed to munch it and regurgitate it.
right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Interesting.
As if, yeah, which is a complete denial of our own human experience, which is what the person's resonating with. Yeah.
And, sure, the person is going to resonate with us being a human. The person's going to resonate with validation of us saying, like, yeah, me too. Sometimes that's healing enough. It's just hearing me too. Um,
Right.
but it's, it, I like to kind of laugh at it because if we are that receptacle that shows nothing, we are not a human, we're not doing any service to our clients because there's not a single other person in this world that they will interact with who will be
Hmm.
a blank slate
Right.
and who will, have no pushback on what they are saying or have no opinion or have no background of their own experience in it. We are doing a disservice to our
Hmm.
clients because it's almost like taking like extreme gentle parenting, extreme. I see
Yeah.
values in it, but the extreme end of it. And then saying good luck and throwing the kid into the world, they're not going to have the social skills to handle diversity. And
Hmm.
that's all this world is. So us coming in as a blank slate and just taking and taking and taking whatever it is they throw out and giving nothing back in any terms of uniqueness, they're not prepared to take the
Hmm.
skills that they learn in therapy back into the real world.
Right. Well, and that seems to be talking about an extreme version of
Mhm.
various things, an extreme version of even person-centered, where
Yeah.
it's like you're supposedly so much the expert that literally all you need to do is hear your own thoughts. And it's like, well, wait a minute. If they were completely 100% accurate, all they had to do was just talk out loud. Why do they need us? I mean, suddenly the empty chair technique becomes a literal way of doing things. like,
Exactly. I don't
like,
even
wait a minute.
appear on screen.
Yeah,
It's just my chair.
yeah. You get a bill, and I got some
You're
groceries to get
welcome.
run too. Right? Yeah.
Exactly.
My secretary, I'll see you on the way out. I'm not even
Yeah,
here. Yeah, literally not even here.
literally. No, absolutely. And I think that of course there's extremes to any approach or, what have you, but just because I'm person centered and because I truly do believe you are the expert in your own life, you're
Mhm.
living it, I can challenge things. I
Mhm.
can question it because maybe you haven't asked those questions before to yourself.
Yeah. Well, and it's the so one of the work from a personal construct psychology, and one of the ideas there of George Kelly is that we're all scientists, in a fashion. We're testing ideas, and that's what I'm hearing a bit is
Absolutely.
like you can be, an expert doesn't mean infallible.
Oh,
An expert
yeah.
just means that you're the first person people come to. If I
Yes.
want to know about you, I'm not. Well, I mean, okay. I'm not going to necessarily go to your neighbor.
Yeah.
If I want a certain story about you, maybe I do.
Yeah, sure.
But but I'm going to come to you. I'm going to come
Yeah.
to the person who has that initial. But it doesn't mean necessarily that you're. I mean, we tell ourselves bullshit stories all the time.
Yes.
But in order to hear them, we have to talk.
We need to have a mirror in front of
Hmm.
us.
Hmm.
Self-reflection is
Right.
one of the biggest tools any human walking this earth can have. And
Hmm.
and that is a skill to build. It doesn't come naturally.
Right.
Nobody
Oh,
likes to look on what they maybe could change or work on. I go to my
right.
own therapy. Like this this is like a whole big cycle and everybody,
Hmm.
works through it.
Absolutely. Okay. So then when it comes to, that kind of like expertise and touching on a bit of, we're going to both get ourselves into trouble here. Um, but when it comes to the DSM and diagnosing,
Mm,
the expertise says here is this um, diagnosis, this label that is I try to explain it as being descriptive rather than prescriptive,
yes,
and which is unfortunately the opposite of how most people see it.
I know.
Um, and but it's almost like um, it's like the court stenographer. They don't they don't recording every single word.
Yeah.
They're recording just enough to make sense of the conversation.
Yes.
And in a way, I'm actually more critical of diagnosing than this, but I'm trying to be very kind.
Be
But
nice.
it offers that kind of like initial, like,
Yeah.
yeah, here's how we're going to frame things.
The best way I have like found that I'm able to have, I guess, kind conversations about the DSM is saying the value that I find in it is it gives us all in the field, regardless of what corner we're coming from, it gives us a common language. And that's the only thing it's good for. It gives us that framework. It gives us that, court document of generally speaking, here are what symptoms they're experiencing. Here's the I guess frequency they're being experienced, whatever. Beyond that, I see no value in it. So, um, I'm someone who likes to think back to the root of like, where did DSM come from?
Hmm.
And it came from a time that did not understand mental health and it did
Hmm.
not take into consideration lived experience. And it was written by really old white dudes. And that's that's not the only person who lives in the world.
Hmm.
It's coming from a colonized view of the world. And I have a very decolonized approach to therapy. So, just the easiest example I can give is someone with bipolar disorder.
Hmm.
A lot of times the therapist will see that um, and almost panic and be like, no, no, I can't. That's a serious diagnosis.
Right.
And there's so many problems that come up with that. And I've spoken to, I work with clients who have bipolar disorder and have literally said that they struggle to find someone who will work with that diagnosis, which is extremely sad to me. One,
Hmm.
we can have our specialties, but to just be like, ah, no, I won't do that. Um, bipolar, you experience trauma
Hmm.
and you're reacting appropriately. Does not mean it's a healthy reaction.
Hmm.
We can work on um, reeling things back in and getting to a level of comfort, right? But when we experience trauma, when we experience extreme situations, it is idiotic to think that someone is going to respond in a calm manner.
Hmm.
It's not natural. None of us are doing it. So to see someone go through something that is so catastrophic to their life, and then they're having a big reaction to it, and we're going to pathologize it. And we're going to say, oh my God, your brain is broken. You
Hmm.
are bipolar. Not, hey, you're experiencing some bipolar symptoms.
Right.
You are bipolar now. You're now identifying with that.
Hmm.
I'm not here for it.
Well, and it seems to be it would be taking, 5% of their life and using it to basically color the entire, you know, person. Say,
Absolutely.
here's what you were like when you were 4. Now I understand you. I don't need to know anything else.
Yeah, I'm good. I got the whole
Yeah,
story.
I'm good. I got this. You had this set of behaviors at this particular moment. Um
You used to
and
wet the bed. That's all
right.
I need
Yeah,
to
that's
know.
it. That's it. I'm sure you probably do anyway. Still,
I'm sure
because
you
of
still
course,
do it.
once you've done something, it must mean that you're going to do it for the rest of your life. Like,
Yes.
wait a minute. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's no growth. There's no adjustment.
No.
There's no other outside influences.
Hmm.
Um, I love how you phrase that. Yes, you're taking 5% of someone's lived experience and making that their whole identity.
Hmm.
And it's just
Well, and
not
that's where it
real.
comes in back into that descriptive, prescriptive, and
Yes.
the as you use the pathologizing, the medicalizing
Hmm.
of normal human reactions to
Yeah.
difficulty in all of
Yeah.
its variation. Somebody, um, but of course, in some of that, even then, like kind of alluded to that a bit of like the behavior that you did this one time. It's like
Hmm.
people don't seem to understand that you can have like a manic episode, and I always get confused whether or not it ends up putting you into bipolar 1 or 2. You can have a full on manic episode, literally never have another one for the rest of your life, and carry that label with you
It will not go away.
forever. Like, I am now this. And
Hmm.
it's like,
Hmm.
how does that at all make any sense? It,
It's
it
not
doesn't
even
even work from a medical
respectful.
perspective. Like, you have a
No.
cold when you were 10, now you're going to have a cold for the rest of your life.
But what
Like,
if you have another cold?
right.
It's
Yeah.
like this
Because,
preemptive, preparing for this
hmm,
thing is going to happen again.
right.
So this is all you're ever going to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
And don't worry, anytime you have a difficulty, the past is prescriptive. So the way
Yeah.
you responded before must be because, it's your pathology. This is how that's going to work, which,
It's the only way you're ever going to react,
right, which would totally undermine the even capacity whatsoever for personal growth and change.
which
Yeah,
completely
which
goes against the whole reason of therapy. So whatever.
I thought so. But I also have bills to pay. So if I
We
can have a
do
few
too.
clients last forever, then it's all right. I'm totally
We'll
good.
just keep them
Yeah.
coming. No.
Yeah. This is yeah.
No, it's so true. And I think too, like societal influences.
Hmm.
Um, okay, we live in America, so people are going to see um, a manic episode or a form of mania, and they're going to, oh my God, and throw out the word crazy, which,
Hmm.
okay, that we use that way too commonly. But another specialty of mine is grief and loss. So when we look at grief and you go around the world and how people grieve, they are so drastically different. In America, we have the funeral. It's probably a 1, 2, maybe 3 day experience. But we go into other countries and cultures, and people will mourn for a month. If a wife loses a husband, she's supposed to stay in the house for 2 weeks and not come out, not speak to a single person. And if she doesn't, she's labeled as crazy, right? Like if she were to come out early, and it is truly just based on where your pin drop is in the world. So the mania, I'm just using again this as an
Hmm.
example. The DSM that we're using is what is defining the diagnosis.
Hmm.
We go anywhere else, and your reaction could be seen as not enough, maybe. Maybe it's like, holy shit, I don't think this experience resonated enough with you. You're kind of being too calm.
Hmm.
It's it's all constructed. It's not
Well, and
human.
Right. Well, and that's it would seem, and then it would be the constructivism there is true across the board,
Hmm.
where even the way in having worked with many people also grief and loss and kind of going like, okay, depending on how people frame it, it's like, well, you've had that 2 to 3 day of the ceremony and the family getting together. No, it's time to be done. And you're like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
as if
Uh-huh.
grief has a timestamp on it
Hmm.
in a
Well, it should.
countdown to when yeah to when it should be done, and completely ignoring again just how powerful and important relationships are for our continued and I'm going a little bit afield here, but I mean our
Go ahead.
continued self-image and
Yes.
self-reflection on what decisions we're going to make. I mean, that person
Absolutely.
is no longer here.
And they're not coming
It-
back.
they're not coming back. It's not a one and done thing. It's not like, oh, you're done, I get to go move forward.
Yeah.
It's everything that I thought was going to be no longer is. And
Hmm.
so there's almost a kind of um, a dying, a grieving over and over. There's a cyclical process, to
Yes.
it as you come back to, oh, right, this again. Oh, right, this again.
Absolutely. The
Yeah.
anniversaries.
Mhm. There you go.
It comes back to those kind of like the body keeps the score approach to things of your body is remembering our calendar year. Oh shit, they died in December. December's coming up. I'm going to slip into a depressive state. This is the first birthday without them. This is the first um I don't know why, but we always get so excited about like the first ice cream trip of the summer, right? This is the first ice cream trip without them. They used to always be here for that. It can be something
Mhm.
as simple as that. It doesn't have to be this like holiday or birthday or anniversary, of a marriage or something, anniversary of the death. Our body's going to remember it and we're going to react every year. The
Mhm.
reaction may change, but it's not going away. And I love, like you said, we're supposed to have this timestamp. You had your funeral, it's done now. And even the pathologizing of grief, if it extends beyond a year, now it's complicated grief.
Yes, it's complicated now.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, at day 365, it turns a page into
it
now we've
does.
got complicated. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're still grieving?
Hmm.
This is complicated. No, it's not. Nothing about this is complicated. They lost
No.
someone that had a huge influence on their life.
Hmm. And in fact, that goes into the pathologizing, and the time frame. It's like, yet for the purposes of research and wanting to come up with um, as much as clear as possible treatment modalities, there's an artificiality to this. But at the same time, like the artificiality to it is not just a character of it. It is the thing itself. It's going, here's this time frame. Was it the um, adjustment disorder? And if you go past a certain amount of time, suddenly now it's major depressive, and you're
And it's
like,
not covered by insurance anymore.
and it's no longer
It's
covered.
only what, like
Uh,
6 months you can have adjustment disorder or
if
something?
that,
Maybe.
yeah,
That's a
maybe, yeah,
forgiving
and
insurance
that's if
company.
the behaviors are significant enough
Exactly.
by somebody's definition. Yeah, no, and it's as if like, well, okay, but what happened at day, say it's 6 months,
Mhm.
178.
Mhm.
Sorry, you're not depressed then. You're only depressed if it's ongoing at day 181. So the three
Yeah.
days, like
You were
this is a
only
big
adjusting
deal.
earlier.
They're only adjusting. Now it's a real big deal. Yeah.
Now it's
Like, wait, what?
complicated.
Right. Yeah. Yes. Now it's complex. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's like
Yeah.
who determines that day? And
Hmm.
everybody is going to have a different timeline. We are not on the same timeline. And to hold everyone to the same timeline, again, idiotic.
Yep. Well, and this gets into, I imagine, the existential part
Hmm.
of your modality of going. These aren't one and done things. You mentioned skill building as well,
Yeah.
and which it just reminds me of got into an online debate because what else do you do online?
There's
With
no friend
it,
making.
there's no, yeah, no, this is all like
Yep.
just lobbing opinions like missiles at people. And the difference between therapy and coaching,
Yeah.
and how so many will draw the distinction of going, well, coaching is about goal direction. What are you doing in therapy if you don't have any goals?
Question.
Where are we? Yeah, where what is exactly this? What is supposed to, yeah,
What are
do?
we doing here if there's
Right.
not a goal?
Yeah.
Um, I couldn't agree more. And, even like with relationship counseling, let's use that as an
Hmm.
example. One of the very first things I ask them is, give me your goal out of this. And if they don't have the same goal, we're not going anywhere else until
Yep.
we find a common goal because we're going to be working in two different directions. There's there has to be a goal in what we do.
Yeah.
How do we
Yeah.
measure success in therapy if there's not a goal? If we're not growing towards something, if we're not striving for hitting a certain point, then how do we know if we're doing our job?
Nope. Absolutely. Well, in that, in this, to kind of touch a little bit more then on the existential part,
Mhm.
is that, and imagine, I've heard this, so I don't have to really imagine it. But, I've heard from people where, the existential is almost this airy fairy thing
Oh,
where,
yeah,
it's like, oh, we're just kind of pondering things. And it's like, no,
yeah,
existential questions aren't just something they're not one and done either, but
no,
they're not completely vague. So you can have goals and be an existential therapist.
yes,
It's like the skills to address those questions, even in an ongoing fashion,
sure.
is itself a process. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's part of truthfully, I think so much of existential therapy is teaching people to be comfortable with exploring those big questions. And maybe we don't find an answer to it in one session. Maybe we find an answer to it and that answer adjusts 6 months down the road. I think there's this fear to big questions. And honestly, I think a lot of it is rooted in religion because it doesn't offer a lot of concrete answers. Um, so then when people are expected to ask those questions to themselves, and it's like there's this belief system with tens of thousands of followers, hundreds of thousands, and it doesn't even have like a super final answer. How am I supposed to find that?
Mhm.
Well, let's make that a goal. Let's find that answer for you. What does that look like? And honestly, my experience at least with um, existential therapy is let's spitball. Let's throw out ideas. Which one resonates most? And then we're going to dig into that about the why and the how.
Mhm. Well,
It
sounds like
doesn't
there'd
have
be
to be
a
airy.
right. Well, and there's a functional question to it.
Hmm.
What does this lead me? What path does this lead me down? Which often ends up coming out of that, the religious question and people leaving it. Why? Not even necessarily always that they found the answer wrong. It's that
Yeah,
the path that the answer put them on was no longer one that they wanted to follow anymore. Now it ends up being you have to end up questioning the answers. Like people
they're
don't
down the
you generally
road.
start that right. Yeah,
Yes.
it's going. Wait a minute, I'm treating my family this way, or I'm treating my
Yeah.
friends this way, or I'm treating my own self a
Yeah.
particular
Oh
way.
my gosh,
I don't
yes.
I don't want to do that anymore.
That doesn't feel good.
Right. Right.
And that's the start of that's like the
Hmm.
fork in the road of wait a second. This doesn't feel good or this doesn't really feel like me. This
Hmm.
this maybe doesn't even completely make sense right now with where I'm at in my life. And that's when we start to veer a little bit and we start asking the other questions.
Right.
Mhm.
No. Listen, I've got this mental image of like at every fork on the road as a therapist going, "You have the answers."
As soon as I said fork in the road, I don't know if you've ever seen that meme, but there's like the haunted house with like lightning on one side and then like a meadow on the other.
Hmm.
What are you going to choose?
Which one are you gonna choose? Yep. Yep. Of course, the therapist, whatever resonates with you.
Whatever feels best.
Whatever feels best in the moment.
I'll cheer
Right.
you on in the back.
Oh, that's awesome. Now we need t-shirts. Fork in the road therapist. Yeah.
I'm
This
there.
this
I'll be
this
the
this
first
is
customer.
that would be fun. That
Yeah,
would be fun. Casey, I have a feeling we could probably talk for several hours.
I
Um,
agree. I agree with that.
and we'll have to do this again and delve a little bit more into we'll just sit here and bash the DSM all day long. But
Sign me up.
yeah. So we'll do that again. But for right now, thank you.
Thank you.
And I will definitely make sure that everybody, is there a particular like website where can people most easily find you?
So website www.coreclarityco.com. That's my practice. It's myself and two other clinicians, and we're also very active on Facebook. So if you just search Core Clarity Co on Facebook, you'll find us. Follow along. We we are opinionated therapists. We are not a blank
Nice.
slate. So we have some cool posts to keep up with, and we're happy to meet everyone and get to know everyone.
Love it. Well, and I will definitely make sure all those links are on there for anybody to
Thank
find
you.
you. So
Yeah,
that's awesome. Again, thank you. And we'll do this again.
can't wait.
Thank you. All right.